up, you guys? My name is Aubrey, this is my channel, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the top 10 mistakes to avoid as a new Turo host. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what you should avoid and what you should keep in mind if you want to run a successful Turo fleet. So let's get started. Now today is Top 10 Tuesday, and if you don't know what Top 10 Tuesday is, let me explain. Top 10 Tuesday is the day of the week in which I break down my top 10 best tips about making money, running a Turo fleet, starting a side hustle, whatever the case may be. And like I said in the intro to this video, in today's Top 10 Tuesday, I want to break down the top 10 biggest mistakes that new Turo hosts make. This list will be organized from 10 to 1, 10 being a mistake that is still a big mistake, but not quite as significant, and 1 being the biggest mistake that you can make as a new host. Now, before we begin, I would like to note that I do have a car sharing masterclass. This is a 100% online course that teaches you how I run my Turo business in a semi-passive way. If you guys are interested in checking that out, you can use the code TOP10 to get $25 off that course. I will have that course linked down in the description below. But without further ado, let's dig in because we have a lot to cover in this video. Number 10 on this list is growing too quickly or buying too many cars too quickly. Now, I get it. You sign up for Turo, you start making some money, you realize how addicting it can be, and all you want to do is buy more cars. That is something that I definitely felt whenever I was first getting involved in Turo. But the problem is there is a real issue with buying too many cars too fast, not only from a cash flow standpoint, but also from an experience standpoint as well. I always encourage new Turo hosts to grow slowly, not only so that you know that the market can support the growth, but that you know that you can support it as well. You want to make sure that you have your process in place before you start buying a ton of cars. And it's really hard to develop a solid process if you are always in over your head. Grow slowly, grow methodically, don't rush the process. If you do the job correctly, you will have the opportunity to grow. And it's better to grow at your own pace that you feel comfortable with rather than spreading yourself too thin for the sake of making more money. Number 9 on this list is buying new cars. Now, this is something that I think a lot of Turo hosts would disagree with me with. In fact, I get a lot of comments from a lot of seasoned hosts telling me that my methodology of only buying older cars is not the right route to go down. But if I'm being honest, I don't know how these hosts with 100% new cars are ever able to make money in the Turo business because of the fact that depreciation, in my opinion, would kill their profit margin. Turo is a numbers game, and you have to be able to work out the numbers of the cost of the car itself. So how much did you pay for the car? How much are you making from that car on a price per day basis? How much does the car cost with maintenance, repairs, damages? How much does the car cost to operate? So how much does each mile that this car is being driven, how much does that cost you? And you also have to take into account depreciation as well. All of these things can add substantial cost to your Turo business, but this cost is decreased dramatically if you're renting out older cars. And alternatively, this cost is increased dramatically if you are renting out brand new cars. Now, I understand in the world of rental car companies that renting out new cars is the norm, it's the standard, and that whenever you go into Turo and you're renting out 10-year-old cars, it's deviating from that norm. But the fact is, Turo isn't a rental car agency, and the norm that applies to rental car agencies simply doesn't apply to Turo. And I think that in the world of Turo, renting out a 10-year-old car is not only a normal thing, but I think that it's a welcomed thing as well. It's a way for renters to be able to afford a cheaper rental car that they may not have been able to afford with a traditional rental car company, but it also allows for hosts like you and I to get into the rental car game without having to lose quite as much money. Buying new cars is a mistake I see all the time, and it's one that can easily be avoided by simply buying used. Number 8 on this list is one that, if I'm being honest, would probably be rated as number 1 on this list because I think that it is a huge mistake that too many people make. But I also acknowledge that not everything is about me, and there's more than one way to skin a cat, which is why it's listed as number 8 and not number 1. And that is meeting your guests in person. Now, with Turo, there are 2 schools of thoughts on how you can do key exchanges. Now, key exchanges are how the guest actually gets access to the vehicle and access to the key. One way is you actually meet the guest in person, you talk to them, you meet them, and you give them the key. This is method number 1. Method number 2, and in my opinion, a much better method, is a remote key exchange. This is where you have the key at the vehicle, oftentimes in a lockbox or some sort of safe or safety deposit box, and then you give the guest instructions on how to access the key remotely, meaning you never meet them, you never talk to them in person, you never visit them in person. Everything is handled remotely and you give them instructions through the app. Meeting a guest in person is a waste of time. It makes it incredibly hard to scale. It makes it so that you are revolving every single day around when and how cars are getting picked up. It is just completely inefficient and 100% unnecessary. That is why for every single one of my reservations, I do all of my key exchanges remote. In my entire Turo career, which is nearly 2,000 trips and 4 years worth of vehicles, I have maybe met 3 or 4 guests in person, and it was never on purpose. It was just because I happened to be at the pickup location at the time that they were picking up a car. It was certainly not something that was planned. And this is something that I absolutely refuse to do because it is a waste of my time. If I was to meet every single guest in person, my entire day would be revolved around when and how these guests are picking up cars. It would mean that if a guest is late, that would screw up my entire day. If a guest is early, it would screw up my entire day. If a guest needed to extend, I would need to first check with my schedule. The fact is, guests are late all the time. Guests change their schedules all the time. Guests do not want to talk to you at all the time. There is so many different factors to take into account here. Whenever you meet your guests in person, it just makes the entire process significantly more difficult. By making it my policy to never meet guests in person, I'm able to spend a lot more time doing a lot more lucrative things. I'm able to operate Turo as a semi-passive side hustle, which is exactly what it is. And it doesn't matter if guests are late, early. I'm able to be super flexible, which is something that all of my guests appreciate. Meeting your guests in person is a waste of time. There is a better way to do it through remote key exchanges. Number 7 is another big mistake that far too many people make, and the only reason why it isn't higher on this list is because this mistake won't make or break your business. It will just make you less profitable. And that is not doing a proper P&L and taking your Turo's earnings as face value, meaning looking at your profit on your Turo graph and actually accounting that as your true net profit, which, spoiler alert, it isn't. Whenever it comes to running a Turo business, there are so many costs that need to be taken into account when running the numbers of how profitable your business is. And even though the Turo graph that Turo provides you in the app and on the website is a great tool to be able to refer to at a glance, it is certainly not the end-all, be-all answer to how much profit you're making each and every month. You need to take into account depreciation, maintenance costs, any repairs, any reoccurring costs that are associated with your cars, for example, like toll charges, insurance, things like that. There are a lot of costs associated with running a Turo business. And whenever you look at your gross profit, it simply does not give you the full picture. I highly encourage every single Turo host to go through and track your expenses, not only for each individual vehicle, but for your fleet as a whole. Take into account things like damage claims, oil, gas, parking, insurance, tires, brake calipers, repairs, whatever cost that goes into your vehicles needs to be taken into account. And that needs to be taken into consideration in relation to your profit so that you can figure out actually how much money you're making. Gross profit is not net profit. And just because you're making money according to the Turo app doesn't actually mean you're making money. You could actually be losing money if you're not keeping a close eye on it. Number 6 on this list is very similar to one that we previously spoke about. Not only buying new cars is a mistake for Turo, but also buying cars at market value is almost as equally as bad of a mistake. And that's why this one is number 6. Buying cars at market value, not below market value. Now, whenever it comes to having a successful Turo business, there are a lot of different ways that you can make money. You can make money off of your price per day price, so how much is the renter paying for your vehicle on a per day basis. You can get paid off of damage claims if you're able to fix your cars in a cost-effective way. And the third and final way is by making money with a total loss. So once a car is totaled, meaning it's wrecked beyond repair, how much does Turo pay you out for that claim? If you are a good Turo host, then you would buy your cars below market value, and thus whenever Turo pays you out for that total loss, you actually make money off of that claim rather than lose money. If you buy cars above market value, not only are you going to make less money per day in relation to how much money you paid for the car, not only are your damage claims going to be more expensive, but also the amount that you get paid out if that car gets totaled is going to be less as well. There will be less profit to be made in all 3 of these different types of circumstances. Buying cars below market value is one of the most important things that you can do for your Turo fleet. It is the catalyst for really determining how much money that car is going to be able to make, and it can really make or break your business model in the case of accidents or damage claims. Make sure to always pay below market value. Whether you want to get a nice car, a low-end economy car, a mid-tier car, whatever type of car you choose is up to you and what you're interested in owning. But whichever type of car you choose, the important thing is to remember to buy the car below market value. Buy the car at a really good price. That is incredibly important, and far too many people buy their cars at or above market value, which is a huge mistake. Number 5 on this list is not taking enough photos. Now, if you guys have ever navigated in the Turo app, then you guys may know that whenever you go to check in or check out a car, Turo prompts you to take about 6 photos. That's all they require you to take. But the fact is that if you're only taking 6 photos of your car, it's not a matter of if you're going to get screwed by Turo, it is simply a matter of when. Your photos are your insurance whenever it comes to Turo, and it cannot be overstated enough about how important it is to take a ton of photos. And simply only taking 5, 10, or even 20 photos is a rookie mistake that I see all of the time. Take photos of the inside, the outside, the tires, the wheel wells, the undercarriage, the center console, the steering wheel, the odometer, the gas levels. Literally take pictures of everything. This is so important in order to ensure that you're protected by Turo's insurance. It takes maybe 5 minutes extra. It is such an easy thing to do, and yet it's a mistake that too many hosts make. Take your photos, don't cheap out on this step, it is incredibly important. Number 4 on this list is one that is incredibly important, and it's one that can have some serious repercussions if not taken seriously, and that is not taking reviews as seriously as you should. This is something that simply cannot be overstated. Now, the fact is, Turo is part of the hospitality. You're renting out your cars to guests that pay for those cars, and they expect a certain experience to go along with that, and with that means customer service. Believe it or not, I do not have a reputation with my friends and family of being the most welcoming person in the world. I have a chronic resting face, and I am extremely introverted, which oftentimes gets misconstrued with being unfriendly. And this oftentimes translates to customer reviews as well, and just communicating with customers in general. I have really had to learn the art of brown nosing and kissing my guest's butt in order to get a good review. But the skill has come slowly but surely over the last 4 years of working with Turo. I wish that reviews didn't matter, I truly do, but the fact is they do. They matter for a few different reasons. Number 1 is I can't tell you how many people have rented my cars, and in the initial message they say that the reason why they rented my cars was because of my good reviews. But the other reason, and a more important one, is because Turo has some serious repercussions for hosts that do not meet their host criteria as far as ratings go. In fact, with Turo, they have a metric called the percentage of 5-star reviews. What this means is Turo takes all of your trips that you've had in either the entire time that you've been a Turo host or in the quarter, and they give you a percentage of how many of those trips that were rated, how many were rated at 5 stars. And if you are 90% or above, then you qualify to be an all-star host and a power host. I'm both of those. But if you fall below the threshold of 80%, meaning that if 80% or less of your reviews are 5-star reviews, you actually get kicked off of the platform. Turo sends you a warning email first, but then if you don't change your behavior, you get kicked off and your account gets deactivated. I see a lot from new hosts and even some seasoned hosts that operate their business with a really arrogant perspective and a really arrogant air about them. They have a successful business, they're making a lot of money, so they're untouchable. It doesn't matter if they get a 1-star review. But the reality is it does matter, and the effects of a 1-star review can end up trickling down and causing another 1-star and then another 1-star and then another 1-star. And if you're somebody like me that has a 14-car Turo fleet with the hopes of growing, getting your Turo account deactivated is a big deal. That's something that I simply do not want to happen, and I will do anything in my power to prevent that. And if that means kissing some butts of my customers, then that's fine. Number 3 on this list is not checking your guest license. Now, there are a number of different reasons as to why you need to check your guest license. Number 1, in the case of an accident. Number 2, in the case of a late return. Number 3, in the case that your car never gets returned. And number 4, in the case that your car gets stolen. These are just a handful of different reasons as to why you need to have the guest license on hand. If you don't meet your guests in person, meaning you do remote key exchanges, then you need to get a photo of their license as well as a photo of them holding their license next to their face. That proves that they have their license in their possession. If you meet your guest in person, then you can simply just look at it, but I would still encourage you to take a photo of it. Number 2 is renting out nice cars on Turo. Now, I understand the appeal. I get it. I understand. Truly, truly, I do. You get a nice car, you rent it out on Turo 50% of the time, and you get to pay for your car payment through Turo while enjoying your dream car. It sounds like a dream come true, but It isn't. Because people don't treat your cars like you do. People don't care that this car is your baby. They don't care that it's your dream car. They don't care that you paid $60, $70, $80,000 for it. They just simply don't care because it isn't theirs. People don't care about things that don't belong to them, and this is something that I've learned the hard way over and over and over again on Turo. And people will abuse your cars, and people will abuse your cars regardless of how nice that car is. And my number one mistake that people make, and if you've watched this channel before, if you've watched some of my other Turo videos, you may already know what this is. My number one mistake is not reading the terms of service. The terms of service when it comes to Turo is like the Bible. You have to read the terms of service in order to understand what rules and what regulations you have to follow. You have to read the terms of service to understand what you have to do as a host in order to be protected under the Turo insurance policy. There is not a single document, not a single step that you can take that is more important than reading the terms of service. It's something that far too many people do not do, but it is so easy to do. All it does is require some time on your end. If you read the terms of service, every single question that you have will be answered in that document. You just need to go look for it. There is no excuse to not read the terms of service. If you read the terms of service, you will avoid so many mistakes that will cost you so much money. It is the best thing that you can do, and yet so many people do not do it, which is why it is the biggest mistake that people make when they are new to Turo. If you're interested in reading the Turo terms of service, I will include a link to this down in the description below. With that being said, you guys, I know that we covered a lot in this video, so if there's any specific point that I talked about that you want me to go into a bit more depth about, leave a comment down below and I can make a standalone video. The fact is, there's a lot that you need to understand in order to start a successful Turo or a successful car sharing fleet. But I truly do believe that these 10 mistakes that I've talked about today are mistakes that people make often, and if you can avoid these mistakes, then you'll be setting yourself up for success. Like always, if you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.